Hi, this is Greg Maxwell with Amicus Settlement Planners. Today we're going to talk briefly about special needs trusts, some of the advantages and disadvantages of special needs trust, and then talk about which clients of yours may be eligible to take advantage of a special needs trust. Some of the main advantages of a special needs trust are it protects the needs-based government benefits that your clients may be receiving at the time of settlement. So in most cases, that means we're talking about Medicaid and SSI eligibility. If your clients are on either one of those two benefits and they receive generally more than $2,000 in a net settlement, that's going to cause them to lose Medicaid and SSI, at least for some period of time. And most clients are very emotionally tied to those benefits, and so the thought of losing those benefits is not something that makes them very happy. And so a special needs trust can be a great fit to allow them to stay on those benefits and put the money from the settlement into the trust, and then they can benefit from that trust fund and still remain on Medicaid and SSI. There's really no limit on the amount of money that can go into the trust, so they could have $200, $300, $400, even several $1 million in a special needs trust and still maintain eligibility for Medicaid and SSI. Some of the disadvantages of special needs trusts, there are some eligibility restrictions. Your client has to, meet the certain criteria that we'll talk about in a moment. And then there are certain use restrictions from the trust. Primarily, it's a restriction against using the money in the trust for food and certain shelter expenses that we can talk about in more detail. But essentially, if they're receiving SSI is supposed to cover food and shelter expenses. So the government doesn't allow the trust to pay for those two things. Although if they do need to pay for mortgage or rent payments, that can be done. It just will reduce their SSI benefit somewhat. Obviously, there is a cost to establish a special needs trust. It's probably less than you imagine. Our firm generally charges about $1,500 to walk the client all the way through the process, get the trust drafted and established. And then depending on the trustee relationship or who's acting as trustee, there's generally an ongoing trustee fee to manage the trust. If it is a corporate trustee, it doesn't have to be. It can be a private individual that doesn't charge the client. And we can talk about the pros and cons of that in your specific cases when you call. One of the main disadvantages, of course, is that when the client dies that has a special needs trust, if there are still assets remaining in the trust, then Medicaid has the first right of reimbursement before the remaining assets in the trust can go to that client's heirs. So Medicaid does have the first bite of the apple, assuming there are assets still left in the trust when the client dies. In order to be eligible for a special needs trust, the client must be disabled. Generally, that means they're either on Social Security disability or they're receiving SSI. They need to be age 64 or under, and then the trust can really only be used for their sole benefit. So the money in the trust can't be used for them to buy gifts for other people, essentially. The money in the trust can only benefit that specific client. Members of the family will obviously benefit indirectly, but the sole benefit rule is meant to make sure that they're not using money in the trust to benefit third parties. And then, of course, there is that Medicaid provision that they are agreeing to when they establish the trust. So that's a brief overview of special needs trusts and how they work. If you have any questions or you have a case where a client is on Medicaid or SSI and you're settling a case, give us a call. We can walk you through it. Be happy to talk to you or your client more about it.